So refuge and bodhicitta on the screen.
好，我们先看这个皈依跟这个发菩提心的念诵，我们先做一下情形祈请文。
我三界觉当错觉全拿拉讲究巴拉多大内教书节，大概经说一别三难节，多拉品质三界度巴拉说，三界觉当错觉全拿拉讲究巴拉多大内教书节，大概经说一别三难。Dola Penja Sanje Dubarasho. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment. By the merit of practicing the paramitas, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all beings. For immeasurables,
事无量心。
Simje Tamje Deva Dan Deve Judan Dembala Juroji Dungala Dan Dungala Je Judan Talwa Juroji Dungala Meben Deva Dan Mindawa Juroji Nirin Chadan Dan Tawe Tanyumla Next is mandala offering.
下来是供曼达。
Saje Buje Juje Medotam Tera Lingshe Nide Jamade Sanje Jindo Mide Pulwaye Dogen Nanda Shinla Chöparashu. Okay, so now we are starting with verse number 27.
那我们现在从第27个颂文那边开始。
Okay, root text on the screen, yeah.
在荧幕上可以看到这个根本颂吧。
27, sorry, 27. Yeah.
第27个。
The thieves of unalertness in following upon the decline of mindfulness will steal even the merits I have firmly gathered, so that I shall then proceed to lower realms.
第27个根本颂是这样念的：或贼无正知，尾随念思后，道悉所具福，令夺诸恶趣。
So this is basically talking about if you don't have introspection, then there will be many shortcomings or the disadvantages or the faults, right?
这边呢告诉我们呢，就是说，如果你没有这个正知的自省的这种自觉力的话呢，那会有很多过患会随之而发生。
So in other words, if you don't have mindfulness plus vigilant introspection, then your mental afflictions such as desire, anger, jealousy, and so forth, all of them will arise. These are like thieves, okay? So when they arise in you, in your system, then they will steal all of your virtues that you have gathered for so long. And then, when you don't have any of those virtues left, then what is left with you is non-virtues. The non-virtues will lead you or bring you down in the lower realms.
换句话说，如果你没有这个正念， 加上失去了正念之后，你又退失了你的这个正知的觉知力的话呢，那我们的各种烦恼，比如说贪嗔痴慢疑等这些呢，就会慢慢的兴旺起来。那这样的话就等同于这个邀请这个盗贼进入你的家里面，进入你的系统里面，偷走什么呢？偷走你的一切的无始以来所累积的这些功德。那你功德被偷走、被盗取了之后呢，随着那些不善业、恶的东西就会产生。那这样的话，因为恶业的缘故呢，起祸造业的缘故，你就会无尽期的堕入到这个下山的道中去的，无始无尽的在轮回当中不得出离。
So it's very important. Here, I mean, all of these verses are talking about how to maintain mindfulness and vigilant introspection. But the most important thing for us, all of us, is to really clearly identify what is the mindfulness and what is the vigilant introspection, right? Because the last time people are asking questions about what is the difference between introspection and concentration and so forth and so on. So beginning of this text, I have already given you the definition of mindfulness and introspection. So when Shantideva says that every time, whatever we do, mindfulness has to be there, and also introspection has to be there. Don't lose them at all means what kind of state of mind do you have to have? So that we have to remind ourselves. Otherwise, kind of expecting something miraculous thing, that's not going to happen, because these are the things that we already know, and then we can always check with our own, self, that do we have those with us all the time, or are we losing it? If we realize that we lost them, then of course you have to use the skillful means which is taught by Shantideva here to bring them back.
所以这边呢就告诉我们，要有这个正念，加上这个正知的觉知力、觉照力。所以这个保持无时不刻呢，不管我们在做什么，要保持这个正念和正知力的觉照是非常的重要的。但是首要之物呢，我们必须要明白何谓正知，什么叫做正知的觉知力。那上次各位问过的这个问题，就是说这个正知力呢，跟这个专注有什么这样的这个分别？所以在这边很重要的是，我们要知道何谓正知，那正知的状况是怎么样的一回事。所以一开始的时候呢，吉天菩萨就告诉我们说，不管我们的行住坐卧，不管我们在做什么、说什么、想什么，都要无时不刻的保持正念，再加上正知的觉察力的话，就是确保我们做的事情是正确的。同时保持正念正知之后呢，我们也不可以退失或者忘失掉这个正知和正念，所以这个呢，正知正念到底是什么呢？我们必须要知道它的标准在哪里，以便如果我们退失或者是失去它的时候呢，我们要提醒自己，再把它拉回来，再把它让它升起来若不是这样的话呢，我们以为是正知正念力的培训呢，就好像是一种奇迹一般的。你今天做了，明天就会有效果的，这个是不可能的一件事情。但是如果你知道这个正知跟正念的标准在哪里，它的形貌状相为何的话，到底有没有这样的你这样的这个状相，有没有这样的这种境界的话呢？有的话就保任它，没有的话呢就会退失的话呢，就根据这个吉天菩萨所教我们那些方便法门呢，让它缓缓的升起。
Yeah, similar to everybody very kind of easily say that, I have, I love you, or I have a compassion for such and such, and things like that. It's very easier to say it, but when you say it, whether you really mean it or not, again, we have to check ourselves. So what is loving kindness means? What is it? So first you have to identify loving kindness is a state of mind, right? So basically, but especially from the Buddhist point of view, Mahayana Buddhist point of view, the loving means love is the state of mind where you feel or you have a feeling of may all sentient beings be happy and be with the cause of happiness. So if you do have genuine feeling or the state of mind that has that kind of feeling, then you can say, I love, sentient beings. I love you. I love my father. I love my mother, and things like that. If you don't have that kind of experience or that feeling, then even if you say, I love you, there's no love. See? Similarly, compassion. So I use this as an example because people say, oh, I practice mindfulness. Are you really practicing mindfulness? Do you have that, state of mind which has kind of constant remembrance or constant memory of what needs to be adopted and what needs to be avoided, right? So when you have that memory, constant memory, then that is mindfulness. If you don't have that, then just saying I practice mindfulness means nothing. So that's why very important when we discuss this, any kind of practice, associated with your body, speech, and mind has to be accompanied by, according to Shantideva's advice, accompanied by these two, mindfulness and introspection, right? So therefore, it's very important, crucial to check with yourself whether you have that state of mind of the mindfulness and the state of mind that is the introspection. So if you do have those things, then I think according to the advice, don't lose it and keep it, maintain it constantly, very actively, right? If you find that you are losing it, bring it back. This is what mainly Dr. Shantideva is talking about here.
一般我们说，就是说，我们喜欢说我爱你了，我对这个某某众生有这个慈悲心等等这样的一些话。那我们讲这些话的时候是很容易的，到底你的意思，你讲的话是不是你真正的意思呢？你必须要好好的去检验一下，到底这个慈爱心是什么呢？简单来说，慈爱就是一种心境嘛，所谓的慈能以乐。当你能够感同身受的是，很期望的见到众生具足乐及乐因的时候呢，当你这个觉受的时候，你讲的话就是你的感受的话，那你说的这一番话才有意义的。要不然你说我爱我的父母啊，我爱我的爱人、亲戚朋友这些呢，你是嘴巴说说而已。如果你没有这个感受的话呢，那这句话是不具足任何的意义跟功用的。所以就这边言说，当你以为自己是在修持这个正念的时候，我在修持正念，那是真的在修持正念的吗？那正念叫什么？你知道吗？那修持正念的话呢，何者当取，何者当舍？你明白吗？所谓的一词不忘失，你做到这一点吗？如果你做到这一点的话，才是真正的在修持这个正念。那否则的话呢，你只是嘴巴说说而已，你对正念的意识。得到正念的标准，你一点都不知道。所以吉天菩萨像列瓦就告诉我们说，所谓的正念就是我们的身口意呢，都必须要无时不刻的保持在正念觉知当中。正念跟正知这两者都要有，所以我们必须要无时不刻的去省察一下自己，说我们有没有具足这个身口意方面呢？有没有具足这些正念正知的这些品质？那如果有的话，吉天菩萨告诉我们说，就是要保任它，不要让它退失。如果没有的话呢，就要立刻赶快的有觉照力、有觉知力的，让它慢慢在我们的身心中呢，升起这样的这个正知和正念的这个品质。
Okay, so continuing of the fault of not having introspection, verse number 28.
下来是这些，如果你不具足正念跟正知的话，有哪些过患呢？就是第28个根本颂这边有说明。
So this host of thieves who are my own disturbing conceptions, will search for a good opportunity. Having found it, they will steal my virtue and destroy the attainment of life in a happy realm.
根本颂这样念呢：此群烦恼贼，寻昔意打劫，得便夺善财，复毁善去命。
So, yeah, as it's already quite clear here, the host of our own mental afflictions, desire, anger, and so forth and so on, all of those are like thieves. And they are very smart. And so therefore, what thieves do, first thieves will survey where they want to steal something. And they will also look for what time is the best time for them to go and steal, what time is the best time or the time that the owners will not be there. Similarly, our own mental afflictions will also do that. They will always search for the opportunity for us to be vulnerable. So when we are vulnerable, then these uninvited guests, I call them, the mental afflictions, desire, anger, and so forth, will then come in, barged in, and occupy our place, and then we become, the servant or subject to them, and then they will overwhelm us. They will then overpower us. And so basically, then all of the good things that we have, they will steal, and also they will destroy all the good results that we may experience caused by all the accumulations of the wholesome deeds. However, since they have stolen our wholesome deeds, then they destroy our future good results that we may experience.
所以呢，这边很明显的就告诉我们说呢，那我们的烦恼，比如说贪嗔痴慢疑这些呢，就好像小偷盗贼一样的，他们是非常聪明的。当他们要去你的家偷东西的时候呢，必须要去研究一下你几时不在家，什么是偷东西最好的时间。所以他们知道你不在家的这个时间点的时候呢，就偷偷的跑进去你家，把你的东西、宝贵的东西啊、财物都偷走了。所以同样的，我们的烦恼，比如说贪嗔痴这些呢，都无时不刻的在找机会。当你的心灵最脆弱的时候，他们就会偷偷的跑进来，占据你这个内心的这个空间。就是他们就会反客为主了，变成你的主人，你就变成他们的奴仆了。所以这些烦恼的盗贼呢，就偷走了你生命中的这个宝物，比如说你的一切功德等等这些，你无始以来所累积的一切功德都被他们偷走了。这样的话呢，你过去用功的累积的善业所导致的未来的善果，也就这样呢，一一的被他们拿掉夺走了。
So now next is the actual implementation or utilization of mindfulness. That is verse number 29. Therefore, I shall never let mindfulness depart from the doorway of my mind. If it goes, I should recall the misery of the lower realms and firmly reestablish it there.
现在第29个根本颂是说，我们要如何运用或者是修持这个正念和正知。那根本颂是这样念的：故中不稍纵，正念离一门，离则失诸幻，复助以正念。
So, if you let your mindfulness wander, then all the problems will start, right, coming to you. However, if you are very mindful of this mindfulness, not letting it go away from the doorways of your mind, then there is a chance for you to be able to do the right things. In other words, practicing the right thing to adopt, and the right thing, things that are that needs to be eliminated or avoid. So then you will follow that when you have the mindfulness.
所以呢，这边就告诉我们说，那当你一忘失正念呢，正念和正知的时候呢，你的问题各种各样的问题跟麻烦就会不断的滋长和出现。那如果你没有忘失掉这个正知正念的话，而且能够念之在之，了了分明的话呢，一切都会各就本位。那你所做的事情，你在身口意方面所做的各种所作所为呢，何者当取，何者当舍，什么是应该避免的，什么是应该去做的，你就会如理如法的去实践，去奉行。
So when you do that, when you are very mindful of your mindfulness, then even sometimes if you lose your mindfulness, you will realize it. So therefore, when you realize that your mindfulness is no longer with you, or it's already wandered around, then you have to bring it back by recollecting all the sufferings, the miseries that the non-virtuous actions that you may perform due to the lack of mindfulness, right? So recollecting all those things, then it's easier for you to bring back mindfulness and reestablish the mindful in your doorstep of your mind.
所以呢，这个如果你对你的正念本身也能够升起正念来念之在之，加以觉照的话，那一旦你失去了这个当下的正念之后呢，你就可以立刻的有所警惕，有所觉知，说啊，我失去了这个正念，我必须要再次让这个正念缓缓的升起来。所以呢，这个一旦你警惕到或者觉知到你正在逐渐的失去这个正念的时候呢，你就可以提醒自己的，不断去意识到说，如果我不断的这样下去的话，这样的退失正念下去的话呢，我这些不善业呢所造就的恶果，我将会个人去承受。下三恶道的苦难呢，那个是无止无尽的。所以有这样的这个警惕的话，能够让我们很容易的再次的提起正念呢，对我们当下的正念呢，能够念之在之，了了分明的去继续的意识，继续的去信守下去。
Okay, so then verse number 30, through staying in the company of spiritual masters, through the instructions of abbots, and through fear, mindfulness will easily be generated in fortunate people who practice with respect.
下来第30个颂，恒随上师尊，堪布赐开示，未尽有缘者，恒益生正念。
So it's all the time, recommended that to be a serious practitioner, you need a proper teacher or your, guru, because when you are always with the guru, then there is less danger of losing your mind. Or, in other words, with the constantly with guru, then guru inspires you to practice mindfulness and introspection. Similarly, then not only just general guru, but then the instructions that you receive from kempos or abbots, then there is all this inspiration, the reason for you to be vigilant all the time of the practice of the mindfulness and introspection. So with these, the help from your guru, your abbot, then you will be able to follow your practice more, more kind of continuously without losing or letting any hindrances or the obstacle come in.
所以呢，这边就告诉我们说，一个常常被建议，这个学子们或者是佛子们常常必须要做的事，就是要常随上师，必须要跟我们的老师或者我们的 guru、我们的上师同在， 常随上师，因为上师的教戒或上师的这个存在呢，能够让我们不忘失，不轻易的忘失，我们的正念的义持，不只是一般的上师，乃至于所谓的堪布啊，我们的佛法上的老师啊、大师、祖师大德们呢，就常常跟他们在一起，与他们同在。这样的话呢，因为他们给我们许多这个关于正知跟正念方面的告诫跟诀窍，如果我们刚刚常常跟他们在一起，领受得到他们的启发跟依教奉行的话呢，那我们就能够念之在之，了了分明的，对这个正知正念不离不舍，持续的向前迈进。同时，我们在修持正念跟正知方面的障碍也会逐渐的、慢慢的减少。
So in this verse, actually, there are three things: your guru, Khenpo, or the abbot, and fear itself, right? Not only your guru and Khenpo with instructions inspires you, but also you have a fear, you have a hesitation, like, oh, if I do something wrong, then my guru, my abbot, Khenpo will, get upset, and I don't want to do that. So because of that fear, plus also you are constantly reminded of doing wrong will result in lower ranks, right, from these teachers. Then also there is the fear of being born in the lower ranks. So there are three things: the hesitation of your guru getting upset, your Khenpo getting upset, and also you having like being born in the future in the lower ranks, the fear, these three.
所以这边有三个事情我们必须要注意的，有3点。那第一点就是我们对上师的依教奉行，那第二点就是我们对堪布教士的这个依教奉行，然后第三个就是我们对这个若不依教奉行的话呢，我们犯下过错的话，我们的上师、我们的堪布就会觉得大失所望。为了要取悦他们，为了让他们随喜欢喜的话，所以我们必须依教奉行，念之在之，了了分明。所以这3点，第一个就是说，当我们不依教奉行的话呢，比如说这个上师和堪布们呢，就会觉得大失所望。这样的话，我们就不是一个如理如法的这个三宝弟子的这2点。前面这2点就是我们的 guru 跟我们的堪布。然后第3点就是有一种我们必须要有一种恐惧的心理，就是说，如果我们不依教奉行，没有信守我们的这个正念正直的话呢，那结果是不堪设想的。结果就是我们会堕入到下三恶道中去呢，去受苦受难。所以这3点。对上师、对堪布的这个敬畏或者依教奉行呢，这是前面2点。然后第3点就是恐惧。如果我们犯错、不信守这个正念正直的话呢，我们堕落到下三道去受苦受难。所以这3点就造成了我们就是确保我们在的菩提道上呢，能够以这个正知正念来正知正念的这个修持呢，来让我们向前迈进。
Then verse number 31, I am ever dwelling in the presence of all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas who are always endowed with unobstructed vision.
第31字的颂文是这样念的：佛即菩萨众，无碍见一切，故无诸言行，必现彼等前。
So, in other words, many times people kind of think that, even if I do something wrong right now, nobody's here, nobody sees it, things like that, right? But for those, we are always dwelling in the presence of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are always there. We don't see it because of our obscuration. But they are always there. They are omnipresent, right? And not only that, these Buddhas and Bodhisattvas have infinite knowledge. In other words, they have the wisdom that sees everything. So there's nothing that we can hide from them. So since we are dwelling in the presence of these kinds of refuge objects, Buddha and Bodhisattvas, then we have to be careful. We don't want to embarrass ourselves let alone just thinking about the deeper level of, the result, being born in the lower realm, suffering, just even forget about those. But for the time being, just thinking about embarrassment that, you have to feel. So therefore, again, be mindful and be with the introspection of these Buddhas, Bodhisattvas are always there. And when you have that kind of mindfulness, then of course you will always avoid from going into, undertaking some kind of wrong deeds. Instead, you will put your effort into doing the right things.
所以呢，很多人都有一种错误的见解或者是观念或者想法，就是说我们偶尔做一些坏事情是没有人会知道，没有人会听得见，没有人会看到的。那可是这边这个偈颂告诉我们不是这样子的，因为佛菩萨呢，圣众呢，我们所做的身口意所造作的一切呢，对他们来说都是历历在目、朗朗现前的。所以呢，我们看不到佛菩萨的存在，因为我们有障碍的缘故。可是呢，佛菩萨的圣众人是无处不在、无时不在的。他们有这个全知全觉力、全知全觉的力量呢，能够通晓无碍的看见我们，知道我们所造作的一切。所以我们所造作的身口意的作为跟业呢，对他们来说都是历历在目、朗朗现前的。所以我们对这一点必须要很小心，因为我们做的坏事情，如果被人家看见了，我们觉得很不好意思、很羞愧。所以先不要说堕落到下三恶道这种因果的观念。那只要我们做的坏事情被人家看见了，我们就应该觉得很不好意思，觉得很羞辱、很惭愧。所以就这一点缘故呢，我们必须要无时不刻的对我们的身口意的造作，一切的所作所为，必须要升起这个正念跟正知，因为佛菩萨呢都无时不刻的无碍照见我们的一切的所作所为。这样的话，有了这一层的自我警惕跟觉照，那这样的话，我们才不会投入这个错误的身口意的作为当中，那也能够确保我们所作所为都是符合佛法的，如理如法的。
Okay, verse 32. By thinking in this way, I shall mindfully develop a sense of shame, respect, and fear. Also, through doing this, recollection of the Buddha will repeatedly occur.
第32个根本颂，如是思维以则生惨敬畏，寻此复极意，因随念佛。
Okay, so when our mind is in tune with this kind of constant mindfulness, then also be aware, always be mindful of, as it is already mentioned earlier, that Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are always present. We are always dwelling amongst them or in the midst of them. They are always watching us, right? So when you have this kind of thinking in this way, then mindfulness is there. Therefore, mindfully, we are also developing a sense of shame. So shame is a quality that Bodhisattvas have. Because people get into non-virtuous actions, that means then shame is gone, right? So when you have shame, then you inspect yourself, what you are doing. Am I doing it right? And if I'm not, if I'm doing something that is not right, then you have to recollect these things. Oh, how can I do this? Because there are Buddhas and Bodhisattvas watching me. My teacher is always thinking about me, and how can I tell him? How can I report to him? If he knew that what I was doing, something that is wrong, how can I show my face to him? That kind of shame is then can be developed. And also then respect to teacher, respect to Buddha, Bodhisattvas, as well as the fear. Fear is, actually something good, because the fear of falling into the lower realms, fear of losing your bodhisattva attitude, fear of losing your concern for other people or sentient beings. So all of those things, right? Then because of this mindfulness and introspection, constantly practicing, then these things, these qualities will remain with you. And through this way, then there are different, recollections, but among them, the best recollection is the recollection of Buddha. So Buddha being such a wonderful, endowed with all those qualities and infinite loving kindness, compassion, and so just recollecting Buddha means recollecting the qualities of the Buddha. That will repeatedly occur, means we will have those recollection again and again.
所以呢，当我们的心能够融入这个正念的觉知和觉照当中的话呢，那我们必须要知道，我们会升起所谓的这个我们思维无时不刻的融入这个觉知当中的话，要知道说佛菩萨无时不刻的都在关照这种，都在这见知着我们的话，所以我们有这样的一个正确的观念跟思维的话呢，那我们就能够升起这个惭愧心。惭愧心是佛菩萨所具足的一个功德。所谓的惭愧心，就是说，当你的恶念、恶业，你造作了恶念跟恶业之后呢，你就会有一种惭愧的感受，说自己做的这个事情是对的吗？如果是错误的话，那我怎么可以这么做呢？你就有一种惭愧的想法，因为佛菩萨无时不刻的都在看着我们。然后，如果我们继续的这样犯错下去的话，那我们这样跟我们的上司报告呢？我们怎样有面子去见我们的上司呢？那上司跟佛菩萨都无微不至的都在关照着我们，我们怎么能够继续的去做这些错误的身口意上面的作为呢？所以这是第一点，有这个惭愧心啊。第二点，我们对这个这些诸佛菩萨上师有这种敬畏心不只是依教奉行，我们对他们有一种尊敬，有一种尊敬又尊敬又害怕的这种心情啊。第三点就是一种恐惧感，就是恐惧什么呢？我们如此的造罪下去的话呢，就会堕落到下三恶道中去，那也可能退失我们的菩提心，退失我们的菩萨戒，退失我们对众生的大慈大悲心等等这些。因此有了这三点的话，惭愧心一，这个敬畏心二，第三就是恐惧心，这三点具足的话呢，那我们就能够无时不刻的提醒我们呢，要保持和觉照。保持我们的正念跟这个正直力，那这样的话，最好的办法，让我们无时不刻能够保证我们的这个正念力，不退不失的方法，就是要意念佛。意念佛的什么呢？意念佛的功德，也就是想到佛的功德，佛是一切的具足一切的这个圆满的功德，佛远离一切的诸种过患，佛是具足大慈大悲的大觉者。具大雄力者。这样的话，不断意念这个佛的功德圆满的功德的话，就能够很容易让我们升起的正确的如理如法的正念和正知。
Then verse number 33, when mindfulness is set with the purpose of guarding the doorway of the mind, then alertness or the introspection will come about, and even that which had gone will return.
下来第33颂，维护心意门，安住正念仪，正知即随灵，逝者宜复返。
So the mindfulness, the step by step would be the mindfulness first, right? First, you have to really practice mindfulness. When your mindfulness is already set with you, then next is the introspection. So, when your mindfulness is strong, or your practice of the mindfulness is strong, then with that practice of the mindfulness, the introspection will arise in you or come in you. Even sometimes when you lose introspection, it will be very easy for you to bring it back, right? So that is the now almost like the conclusion of the practice of mindfulness plus then the introspection. So first we have to have those two. Now the next would be then how with these two then you can practice. Okay.
Sharak, could you hear us?
Maybe he has problem.
Oh, he just logged out. Maybe he got some connection problem. Maybe
Okay.
We could wait. Camel, could you keep saying maybe continue, or do we need to wait for? Oh, maybe we need to wait for him first. Let me contact him.
Yeah.
Just
Okay, so maybe until Sharap comes, so mindfulness and introspection are two things that kind of, one is the basis and the other one is that is based upon in terms of the practice, right? So the mindfulness is basically the memory or the knowledge that of how to practice properly, right? So practice means what needs to be adopted, what are things that are avoided or just get rid of, right? So when you have these this knowledge, that's called memory, because you learn this from a teacher or from your own study, and now you have to use it every time or all the time, right? So then that is what is called mindful. I'm mindful of this, I'm mindful of that. For example, like the health, particularly like this time now, we have this COVID-19 problem, right? Where, of course, we all know that the treatment is not there. We don't have medicine for it. We don't have a vaccine for it. However, how to deal with this pandemic, this disease, if you if you get infected, right? Then there are many advice given by the health experts, right? So very mindful of those, that how to, for example, use masks, what kind of masks, right? And how to be keep social distance all the time, and how not to touch your hand in different places or different things, and particularly how not to touch your hand with your own mouth or nose or in the eyes and so forth and so on. So these things are maybe simple in nature. However, constantly practicing them is something difficult, right? So that's why we need a active mindfulness in order to practice these things. And then the introspection. In addition to this mindfulness, introspection will make sure mindfulness is just a knowledge, right? then in order to utilize this knowledge, implement this knowledge, we need this introspection. The introspection will check our mind, whether our mind is doing it right or wrong. And if we are doing it wrong, then of course introspection will give us the opportunity or the knowledge to how to correct it. So that's why these two practices, the mindfulness and the introspection, are in that way almost like a cause and effect kind of thing. Mm-hmm.
对不起，刚才我下线了一下，因为网络的线路不好的缘故。所以刚才康布拉所讲的，我重复一次，就是说，当我们的正念力强的时候呢，那我们的正知就会随之而降临。那一旦失去了这个正知的力量之后呢，那因为我们先前的正念很强的缘故呢，都可以再及时的把它拉回来，然后让我们充满了正知跟这个正念。康普刚才所讲的这个就是疗法，就是我们这新冠肺炎蔓延的这个当下呢，我们没有这个100%的这个疗法，还没有被研制出来，能够完全治好这个新冠肺炎。所以呢，怎么样去保持我们现在的健康？如何防疫是非常的重要的。那防疫也需要有这个正念和正知方面的觉知跟这个关照。比如说是这个健康的专家或者卫生专家告诉我们说，怎么样要戴口罩，要戴哪一种口罩，哪一种口罩对我们来讲是有效的，哪一些口罩是没有效的。所以呢，也要保持这个社交，人跟人之间要保持社交的这个距离。那我们的手呢，不要乱的动我们的面部啊、嘴巴、鼻子这些地方。那虽然这是很简单的这个医学上的告诫，可是我们反复的去做，每天都这样做的话，达到卫生保健的目的的话，这是不简单去成就的一件事情。所以这些，即便是这些健康上面的守护呢，我们也必须要有正念跟正知来提醒我们，来保护我们。那正念是还不够的，还要加上这正知的觉照力。因为正念只是一种知道，正知这是一种做到。你知道还不够的，你知道要做到。所以这个正知的力量呢，能够让我们保持我们的觉知力，念知在知，了了分明，然后确保我们能够把正念的这个观念跟知识很好的运用起来。所以呢，有了正念之后呢，正知力就告诉我们说，我们做的到底对不对？做的不对的话，赶快把它拉回来，把我们的所有的过错跟过失都一一的纠正回来。所以呢，这两者是如影随形的，缺一不可的。这两者真像是因果的关系，因和果的关系。先有了正知，先有了正念，对不起，再加上正知力的觉照，就是保持我们的正念呢，能够念知在知，了了分明。
Okay. Now next, the verse number 34 onwards is actually now we have the mindfulness and introspection already set in our system. And with these two, then the following many verses are teaching us how to practice the conduct of mind training with the mindfulness and introspection. And for that, basically, there are three practices of the morality or moral conduct. And number one is the moral conduct of abstaining from negative actions, or in other words, the practicing our vows, right? That's number one. And number two, the practice would be the moral conduct of gathering virtues or the positive kind of karma, positive results, or positive merits. And the third moral conduct is the moral conduct of benefiting sentient beings. Of these three, number one, the moral conduct of vow or protecting our vow.
所以呢，当我们有这两者，也就是我们的正知正念呢，都加入我们这个一个大系统当中，都具有这两个要点之后呢，下来的这个寄送呢，就告诉我们如何关照，以这个正念呢和正知力呢来关照我们的所作所为。那下面就谈到这个戒行的 戒行的这个部分，守戒的这个部分。守戒呢部分，第一个就是要舍弃一切恶法，就是把一些不好的作为呢，身口意方面的作为都舍弃掉，一切恶行恶念都舍弃掉。第一个，第二个就是摄善法戒，就是要聚集一切善的。具足功德的这个所作所为呢，都尽量的去做。第三就是饶益众生戒，就是能够利益一切的乳母的友情。所以戒律呢就具有三个要点。
Okay, so the verse number 34. When, just as I'm about to act, I see that my mind is tainted with defilements or the mental afflictions, at such a time, I should remain unmovable like a piece of wood.
然后这第34个就是说，心意出生即知其有过矣，当即时当稳重，坚持住如树。
So this basically meaning now we have the mindfulness and introspection, and then you have to make sure that these two are constantly there with you. So therefore, when a thought arises in you, then first thing that what we have to do is by using mindfulness introspection, what kind of thought is it? Is this a positive thought or a negative thought, right? And or a virtuous thought or non-virtuous thought. So if it turned out to be non-virtuous thought, and you cannot control your mind at the moment just from that non-virtuous thought, then you, instead of doing something else, you stop everything. You stop the activities of your body, speech, and mind, and just don't do anything and stop right there, and don't think of anything or don't let your mind think anything else. Instead, just how do you call it? Just stop everything and be there like a piece of wood. Usually it's called a log of wood. And in commentaries, some commentaries says that a big tree, right? When it is a very stable big tree, it is unmovable. So in order to remain like a big tree that is unmovable by wind, or maybe even just a piece of wood that is not moving, that's doing nothing. So in other words, you do that. Because at this moment, you don't have the training to transform from negative thought to the positive thought. Instead, give yourself a break and don't do anything, stop everything, and be there like a log of wood or a piece of wood.
这边的意思就是告诉我们，当我们有了这个培训了适当的这个正念跟正知的觉照力之后呢，那当我们的心所谓的升起一些念头的时候呢，我们就以这个正念正知来去觉知一下，去觉照一下，说，这个念头是好的还是不好的？这个念头是善法还是恶法？然后，如果你知道你心中升起一些恶的烦恼的念头的时候呢，你觉得自己是有这种无力感产生，你不知道应该怎么办，然后他的控制力超越你的控制力的时候呢，最好的方法，这边的告诫就是告诉我们说，你什么都不用做，就是一切的身口意的作为就暂时的停止下来，那身体不动，然后念头也不去想它，不去投入于其中，那嘴巴是保持安静的，那你身口意都保持这个如如不动的状态，像槁木一般的，好像一棵树那般的。那这边就告诉我们说，一棵大树呢，它的状态是静止的、不动的，即便是狂风暴雨，它也是如如不动的，不会被这些外在的事情所影响。所以这边的告诫就告诉我们说，当我们的心被一些恶念、一些不好的想法、一些很冲动的想法所占据的时候呢，最好的办法，如果我们还不能够修心，修得还不够好，不能够即使把这个恶念转化成善念的时候，最好的方法就是置之不理，就是安静在那边的，保持冷静，保持安住不动，就好像一棵大树那般的如如不动，就这样的休息安住于其中。
So verse number 35. Never should I look around distractedly for no purpose. With a resolute mind, I should always keep my eyes cast downwards.
第35个根本颂就是无中不应当，无意散漫望，觉志当恒常，垂眼向下看。
So here in this verse, it says no purpose, right? It's very important. It doesn't mean that you cannot look around, all the time. If there's a purpose, you are allowed to do it. But no purpose, then distractedly, if you just look around like a mad person, then this only will lead you to generate more negative thoughts, right? Because our vision and our thought are related. So when you look around and see something beautiful or something like that, there is the tendency of the giving rise to the desire. And if something ugly or whatever, the disturbing things, then there is a tendency of giving rise to anger and jealousy, and you name it, right? So that's why no purpose. If there's no purpose, don't look around like a mad person. And therefore, even looking that way, distractedly looking around like a mad person doesn't look nice also when people look at you. So that's why with all these reasons, then you should always keep your eyes cast downwards, not like a widely looking around everywhere.
然后这边目的呢，就是说你没有意义的散漫的到处张望呢，这样的作为是不被鼓励的，或者是不被允许的。这边的意思并不是说你不能够四处张望，不是这个意思。当你有目的性的时候，你有一些重要性的时候，你必须要环顾四周，你的眼睛可以看向四方，那是可以被允许的。这边的要点是说，你无目的的，好像一个疯子那样的到处去四目张望的，这样的话呢，就会导致你妄念纷飞。因为我们的目光跟我们的心中的念头是息息相关的。你眼睛看向哪里，你念头就会去到那个地方。所以当你看到了美丽的事情的时候呢，美丽的事物的时候，你就会升起这个贪婪心。当你看到厌恶的事物的时候，你就会升起这个嗔怒心或者妒忌心等等这些的烦恼。所以呢，这边的告诫就是告诉我们说，不要漫无目的的。如果你没有任何的目的的话呢，不要无意义的四处的散漫的张望，因为这样像疯子的到处的四处张望的话，这也不好看。那别人看了也不会升起欢喜心。所以，身为一个修行者，如果你没有特别的目的需要四处张望的话呢，必须要把眼睛垂下。然后往下的这个方向呢去看，垂眼向下看，就是这样的意思。
So verse number 36, but in order to relax the gaze for a short while, I should look around, and if someone appears in my field of vision, I should look at him and say, "Welcome."
下面呢是根本颂是这样念的：殊习无言故。偶一顾四方，若见有人至，正是道善来。
So, see, this is, you can see how, the Shantideva was so thoughtful. And the verse number 35 says, don't look around, right? His advice was always keep your eyes cast downwards. Then maybe question may arise like, if you do that for a long time, then it will be very tiresome, right? For that, he says, but in order to relax the gaze, then for a short while, I should look around to give your eye a rest. You should look around. But while you are doing that, while you're looking around, if someone appears in the field of your vision, don't ignore that person, right? It's very disrespectful, or it's not the right thing to do. So if that person appears in the field of your vision, you should acknowledge that person. Whatever is appropriate. In Indian way, here is what the Indian way, like is just say welcome or something like that, a hi or how do you do, or things like that, right? In other words, don't ignore that person, because otherwise this is disrespectful. I mean, this is only when you are looking around, right? If you are, your eyes are gazing downwards, of course, then you don't see that person. Therefore, the person will not feel that you ignored him or her. But when it is very obvious that he or she sees you, that you saw him or her, then if you ignore them, of course, it's a really bad thing, right? So that's why you acknowledge them, their presence, and say good, good words like welcome or hi or things like that.
所以这个吉天菩萨在这个偈颂中就显出他的对我们的关怀是无微不至的。那前一个偈颂告诉我们说，不要四处张望，要把我们的眼神垂下来。然后这一边呢，他就会告诉我们呢，却鼓励我们，偶尔我们的眼神下垂，望向下方的时候，觉得累的时候呢，可以休息一下，那再把我们的眼神提起来了，四处的环顾四周，张望一下。因为这样做的时候，一旦不这样可以让我们的眼神稍微的休息一下，看到有人到来了，我们可以我们也不要置之不理，我们必须要认可他的存在跟出现，跟他说一声你好吗，欢迎你的出现，欢迎你过来这边等等之类的这个东西，跟他说一声嗨或者 hello 这样子。所以因为如果别人出现了，你的眼睛垂下来的话，他当然知道你是看不到的。可是如果你的眼睛张望了四周，看到他的出现跟存在的话，你置之不理的话，这是一种不尊敬别人的表现。所以别人出现在你的眼神之中的话，最好还是要认可他，跟他说一声嗨或者 hello 之类的称呼。
Okay, then verse number 37. To check if there is any danger on the path, I should look again and again in the four directions. To rest, I should turn my head around and then look behind me.
下来第37个偈颂，唯察道途险，四处凭观望，修时以回顾，背面系检索。
Okay, this is a response to maybe the verse number 35, right? Because where it says no purpose, right? If you have no purpose, then don't look around, right? Now, this is if there's a purpose. Let's say you happen to be in a place that is known to be dangerous place, bandits or kind of wild animals, or you name it. So therefore, if you happen to be in that kind of place, then you have to make sure, you have to check all your surroundings, whether there's any danger, any risk that you are facing or is coming in your way. And so that's why you should look again and again in all the directions, of course, together with mindfulness and introspection, not losing your mind be intact, accompanied by mindfulness and introspection. Then you check all these four directions, and the rest, I should turn my head around and then look behind me. So in other words, make sure that there's nothing coming on your way as a obstacle or some kind of danger.
所以第35个偈颂呢，就告诉我们，如果没有任何的目的的话，不要让我们的眼神散漫四处张望。这边却提醒我们说，如果你有目的性的去需要用眼神去张望的话，你也必须要适量的去这么做。比如说，你要到达一个目的地之前呢，你前方的路有没有危险？那你可以用眼神的向四处的东南西北去张望一下，看看有没有所谓的强盗啊、野兽啦、怪兽的存在等等这些呢，以免我们不会遭遇到这样的这个麻烦跟困难。向前方四面八方四处的张望，加上这个正念和正知力的觉照，念兹在兹，了了分明，以这两者来四处有目的性的去四处东南西北张望一下，前方看看有没有危险的存在。那休息的时候要看看我们的后面那边呢有没有所谓的障碍跟危险的存在，这样才是真正的把这个正念跟正知力呢运用在我们的生活当中。
Verse number 38. Having examined both ahead and behind, I should proceed to either come or go. Being aware of the necessity for such mindful alertness or the introspection, I should behave like this in all situations.
第38记诵，前后观察以续行或折返，故以一切时因事所须行。
So the verse number 37 already said, like you have to check everywhere, right? All the 4 directions. Having done that, checking front and behind, then now you should decide with the situation, of course, given the situation, whether you should proceed, go ahead, go forward, or just return. Because if there is a risk or the danger ahead of you, then of course you shouldn't go forward, right? So you should return. If there's no danger or risk ahead of you, then you should go, you should proceed to where you want to go. So this whole technique or this kind of methodology or the decision is to be applied to all kinds of situations, wherever you are, whether you are in the midst of a lot of people, doing something together, or even in the market or anywhere. So you have to check the situation and then decide from there. Don't do anything without checking. Don't do anything with haste. So you have to give yourself plenty of time to investigate and then make the decision and then proceed from there.
然后呢，第37个根本颂告诉我们说，要注意前，要看前看后的，就是前面有没有危险，后面有危险之类的，这个要有目的性的四处的张望一下。然后这边就告诉我们说，你张望了之后呢，你看到四方的前面如果有危险的话，有危机的存在的话呢，你就可以做出一个决定说，如果没有危机的话，继续的大胆的放心的向前迈进。如果有危险的有困难的存在的话，可以决定折返或者往另外一条路去走。所以这边呢就告诉我们说，这是告诉我们一个方法论，这告诉我们说不要慌忙的做决定，就是要做决定之前要细细的观察觉照一下。就是不管我们处于怎样的一种境况，比如说很多人的拥挤的地方，或者在市集啊，在市场那边呢聚集的时候呢，很多人在一起，或者是很少人烟的地方，都要是需要做出冷静的观察，然后做出适当的回应跟决定，然后不要匆匆忙忙就做出这个没有观察就做出这个决定，要细细的观察觉照之后呢，做出这个决定，然后当前的需要呢，然后来实现我们已经做下的决定。
Okay, verse number 39. Once having prepared for an action with a thought, my body will remain in such a way. Then periodically, I should look to see how the body is being maintained.
第39个根本颂是这样念的：一生如是住，安妥威仪矣。时时应细察此身云何住，就是要时时观察我们的身体安住在怎么样的一个状况当中。
So this means your mindfulness and introspection, are there, present, right? Currently there. With that thought, then now you have to put into practice. Like first, your body should remain in such a way. Means body should remain in meditative posture, like 7 Vairochana postures, if you are aware or familiar with it. So basically, just simply meditate posture, like a cross-legged, and then 2 hands in the meditative posture, and do that practice. And then periodically, meaning time to time, you have to check, again, with the help of mindfulness introspection, that you are, whether you have been maintaining that body posture, right? So, checking that, then if it is not, then you have to correct it. If it is, if you are maintaining the body posture like before, then of course continue with rejoicement.
所以在这边呢，就告诉我们说，那当我们的适当的提起，或者是有训练起自己具足这个正念正知的力量之后呢，接下来关照我们的身体的状况。那我们身体状况一边是禅坐的时候，必须要保持这个比如真气质的静坐法，比如说是这个手结定印啦，脚做这个双盘金刚坐等等这些。那当我们身处于这种安定的止息的状态之后呢，我们有时候也要回过头来细细的关照一下，我们身体是否还是安住于之前同样的这个稳定的状态当中呢？如果不是的话，那就继续的纠正它，把它拉回来，让我们的身处于这个如理如法的正念正直的状态当中。如果有的话，就保任这个身的安住的状态，然后随喜自己的这样的一种依教奉行跟这个了了分明的念兹在兹。
Verse number 40. With the utmost effort, I should check to see that the crazed elephant of my mind is not wandering off, but is bound to the great pillar of thinking about Dharma.
那第40个根本颂是尽力遍观察，此若狂相心，谨细念法住，以全为师佛。
So here again, our mind is like a crazy elephant, right? So crazy elephant, if you let loose of crazy elephant, then it can make a huge damage to the area. Similarly, if you let loose your mind, then it can bring a lot of unwholesome consequences, right? So that is why you have to always constantly think about the Dharma, the practice of the Dharma, all the instructions that you have received from your teacher, the spiritual master, and so your mind should constantly be almost like bind to this pillar of thinking of Dharma. So thinking of Dharma is like a very strong pillar, right? So your mind is like a crazy elephant. In order for this crazy elephant-like mind to bind somewhere, you need a very strong pillar. So that's why thinking about Dharma, a very strong thought of Dharma has to be there. So that's why you have, with the help again, with the help of mindfulness and introspection, then crazy elephant-like mind should be bound to the very strong pillar like Dharma thought of Dharma.
所以呢，这边就告诉我们说，我们的心呢，狂野如一头疯狂的大象。那要照顾这个大象具足有很大的破坏力。那如果我们的心的力量照顾的不好的话呢，就能够破坏我们的一切的善业跟功德。所以呢，觉知到这种危害性的话呢，我们必须要把这个好像如大象一般疯狂的心呢，绑在哪里呢？绑在这个佛法的柱子上面，就是我们心必须要心向以法，然后以法同在的意思，就是我们的上师佛法中的老师上师给我们的所有的诀窍修法的口诀呢，要无时不刻的去意念他们的功德，就是要心向维系这个法的义理上、法的见地上跟法的这个修持上，就是说我们的这个心好像一头狂野的大象，我们必须要以正知正念力的绳索呢，把它绑在一个很稳实的柱子上。那这个法的义理的思维见地的思索，就是这个很大的这个柱子。所以呢，必须要把这个狂野如象的这颗狂野的心呢，绑在以正知正念的绳索，绑在这个佛法的柱子上面，使它安住，然后不至于忘失。
Okay, so we stop here today.
那今天我们就说到这边。
And now the Q&A session.
现在是问答的时段，各位有问题的话，可以在这时候提问。Kebola, the 30th verse say that we need to follow our guru or our master. But if we follow our master and we observe that our teachers or our guru has certain aspect that we is not in accordance with our expectation, and then how do we remain devoted to our guru? How to practice guru devotion in order not to create some negative views about towards our gurus, because our gurus are only human flesh. They are human. Sometimes we overly fantasize about their perfections actually. So how should we view this?
Yeah, maybe can you translate that into Chinese first? Maybe
这个问题问到说，我们第30颂说到说恒随上师尊，可是如果弟子因为常常亲近上师呢，观察到上师人性化的一面，然后发现自己的这个过分神化的意气有出入的时候，我们怎么能够保持对上师和传承保持信心跟前进心，而不自己升起邪见呢？
Okay, this question relates to a more kind of explanation. You can't just go ahead and accept somebody as your guru or your teacher. There are required homeworks for both sides, for teacher as well as for disciple side. Before you accept somebody as teacher, somebody as your disciple or student, both should be doing that kind of a preparation or the homework. Once you've done that and you decided that the student or the disciple decided that I want to have him or her as my teacher, and then also the teacher, him or her, accepts the student as his or her students, from then on, I think then it will be easier for mutually, both of them have the responsibility of being a teacher and being a student, right? And then of course, one thing is all of us, teacher as well as students, are human beings. If you have a expectation of perfection with the teacher, and that is wrong. You really have to have the understanding as a human being, due to having this flesh and blood body, you are subjected to a lot of mistakes. But when you develop this kind of guru-teacher relationship by means of all those required, homework or the preparations, then you know how to deal with certain mistakes that the teachers are making or things like that. But you are not there. We are not there to look for mistakes. We are there for look for their qualities. So we are there to benefit. Okay, we are there for benefit from teacher, not like a negative kind of results. So that's why first thing is to prepare or do your homework of choosing a teacher. And then, of course, together with your own understanding, the common sense understanding, then there will be maybe less danger of falling apart later on.
这边呢，康巴拉的回答是说，这个是要解说一下的一个问题，要反复的解说一个问题。那就是说你追随一个上师，所谓的上师，并不是随随便便的一个普通人就可以将之视为是我们的上师，或者我们佛法上的这个老师。那因为呢，这个弟子跟上师这两者之间都要做好他们的功课，就是弟子在选择这个上师之前，要好好的做好自己观察的功课，然后上师在选择要不要接受一个人某人为他的弟子的时候，也必须做好他检验的一些功课。所以当这两者做好自己的功课，就上师决定说我要收这个人为弟子，然后弟子决定说我要依止这个法师这个上师为自己的上师的时候，那一切都变得容易得多。但是最主要的要点是你的前行方面呢，你的准备好，你有没有准备好做好你应该做的这个功课？那这两者都准备好， 确立起这个师生的关系的时候呢，一切都变得简易得多。那主要是功课有没有做得好，做的准备。那做了功课之后呢，我们要观察我们的上司。上司在生活中，因为他毕竟是一个人嘛，他是有这个肉体的身体的肉身的，他会犯错的。他是在世间肯定是会犯错的，然后这个师生关系要怎么样因此而保持不变呢？那你就是必须要，不要刻意的去观察上司的一些过失，不必刻意去挑毛病。那同时你必须要觉知到说你以这个某某人为你的上司的话呢，你是要得到受用的，你是要得到佛法的功德的，你的目的性必须要确立起来，你不是为了升起烦恼而依止这位上司的。那所以呢，第一个要点，康布朗的回答是要做好我们自己的功课。那而且也不要忘失我们的普通常识，我们的 common sense 不要丢失掉。所以这样的话呢，这2点的这个答案，应该就能够减少一些师生关系不当，或者是你看到一些不恰当的不如法的事情出现的时候呢，应该的所谓的危机就会慢慢的减少吧。
Yeah, basically, knowledge is very important, okay? Because there's no, everything is really in Mahayana Buddhism or Vajrayana Buddhism. Everything is in relation to logic and reason. It's something is fishy, okay? There are many people who really want to abuse even Dharma. Then you have to know. So if you have the knowledge, then you will not become the victim of such abuse, because you know better. But if you are lacking in this kind of knowledge, then later on there will be disaster, like a outcome would be disaster, and then at that time it's too late. And it's not good for both, parties. So therefore, it's very, very important. Again, the mindfulness and introspection also works very well for this reason too. In order to choose your teacher, in order to, so you have to be very vigilant, and maybe don't go with blind faith. You have to question everything and then check everything. And then if everything kind of directs towards something reasonably or logically proven to be the fact, then you go with it.
所以这边呢 Khenpo 告诉我们说，我们的知识很重要，要提升我们的认知能力很重要。那即便是大乘也好，金刚乘的佛法当中也好，逻辑的思辨、理性的思考是非常重要的。当你发现一些东西是可疑的时候，当你发现这可疑性很大的时候呢，你就要保持这个觉知的观照力了。那你就不要落入那个圈套呢，成为当你觉知到有一些某些所谓的上师滥用佛法的时候，你就必须不要成为这个所谓的这个滥用佛法者的受害者。那这样的话呢，你个人必须要提醒自己这个觉照力，否则的话，你落入那种圈套、师生关系的陷阱跟圈套当中的话呢，这对上师而言，对你身为弟子而言，这2者都是不恰当的、不如法的、不好的，危害性非常非常的大。所以这一点非常的重要。就这点而言呢，我们正念力跟正知力的培养跟训练，就在这边显得举足轻重，非常非常的重要。也是你无时刻必须要检验你的师生关系，也要去观察你自己的上师，继续的保持弹性，不要盲目的去信仰一个人或者是美化一个人。那你要适当的理性的去怀疑一切，检验一切，观察一切。那这样的话呢，有逻辑的、符合理性思考的、符合客观事实的，你才去依教奉行。要不然的话，你就要慢慢的远离。
Okay, so next question.
Next question, Khenpo. Can Khenpo give explanation? What does it mean by the expression higher than the sky?
Okay. What is it referred to? Can you higher than the sky?
Shirin, this guy named Shirin. Can you explain to us what do you mean by higher than the sky? Who is that? 石林，这叫石林的人可以解释一下什么叫 higher than the sky 吗？比见 ，Yeah, I think it's from Patrul Rinpoche. I think.
Sharon, I unmute your mic. You could speak.
The only thing that I can think of is higher than sky is used when you are writing a poetry.
这比天更
Right?
高，这个
Poetry has exaggeration.
这个
But-
诗意的表达方式说比天更高吧，你的天马行空之类的。Rinpoche, I think Kembala, I think it's from Patrul Rinpoche. He says from Patrul Rinpoche's book, "Who Was My Perfect Teacher?"
Okay.
Oh, the view has to be as high as the sky. The action has to be refined as a flower.
Okay, so I think that's the
Yeah.
analogy that he was using, higher than sky, which means beyond, beyond thought. I think it's beyond because
这边
there's no limit.
这边应该是引述这个莲师说过的一句话吧，就是说我们的见地必须要像天空一样的高，乃至超过天空。但是我们的行止，我们的这个行为必须好像这个1米，或者像是这个稻米一般的细微。就是见地可以很高，但是行为必须要非常的细腻，非常谨慎小心。
So when it comes to the view, of course, we can still explain the view by means of words, phrase, right? But actually, the view itself, the real experience, the view is beyond language, beyond any kind of concept. So that's why, in order to explain it, then just to give us a opportunity to at least intellectually understand, then use this higher than sky, maybe something very high. Sky we can see like, or in other words, we can imagine. But then this view is even higher than that, something that's higher. At least that much we can conceptualize, right?
因为见地的方面呢，见地的实证，实际的自内证方面而言呢，它是无法用语言文字或者观念来清楚的表达跟阐述的。那正确的见地是一种内心实在的这个体验。所以呢，为了要描述这种不可思议的、无法用语言文字来描述的内证的体验呢，所以我们用这个天空来形容呢，不可思议那般的广大如虚空，如虚空那边的了不可得，却是历历在目的这种实际的鲜活的内证的体验。所以就用这个如天空一般高，或者是高过天空的这种文字呢的文学的表达手法来描述这种自内证的不可思议的见地的境界。
Okay. Next question.
There's two questions that I have now. Kempala, would you recommend a Bodhisattva way of life? Any book that is with this subject with good commentary that we can learn further?
Yes. Yeah. Can you maybe translate that into Chinese first?
那个 Kempala 问 Kempala 说，您可以建议一些哪一个入菩萨行论哪一本书和它的解释的这个书呢，可以让我们继续的去修学下去的吗？
Yes. The Bodhicharyavatara. Yes, I recommend without any hesitation. I recommend it fully for anyone who really wants to study Mahayana Buddhism. This is the book that you must have, you must study, because when you study any kind of Mahayana teachings, that you cannot see any text whatsoever that where this Bodhicharya Avatara is not quoted. So this is a very, very universally pervasive text. And it encompasses everything, like very much like an encyclopedia of Mahayana practice in Bodhicharya Avatara.
然后这本呢《入菩萨行论》是的，康波拉的回答就是说呢，它是一切的所有的大乘行者都应该去买、去读、去通透，把这本书读得通透，然后对里面的文句加以这个熟悉、反复的去思索、去修持的一本好书。所以呢，这本书呢，没有一个大师，没有一个大乘的这个大师没有引述的，大家都在引述这本书，所以说明这本书这个论著的重要性，它的普世价值是非常的高的。所以呢， 它可以说是涵盖了一切的大乘的佛法上的行门的精要，一切修持精华都包含在其中。它可以说是大乘佛教的一切法门的百科全书，所以都要具备这本书。
Yeah, there are many commentaries and translation into English. There are also few. The one which is really like a detailed commentary is by Khenpo Kumpal that I suggested last time, the Padmakara translation, because this is a complete commentary to the complete Bodhicitta Avatara. This is something, English is also very good. Translations are superb. And I'm sure there are many other commentaries which are also translated. That one thing that I know of is also the Sakyapa Master. His commentary was translated by Sakya Center in Walden, New York Center. I think the commentator's name is Sasang Matipenche. Sasang Matipenche. I don't recall the title of the book, but it's very nicely done by Anikunga Chöten and Khenpo Kalsang in Walden Sakya Center, and I think it is also available from these internet, right? And then the Bodhicitta Avataras, the wisdom chapter is considered the most difficult. And this has many commentaries, and many of them are also translated into English as well, including His Holiness Dalai Lama's commentary, which is available in English. And then again, the Mipham, the Nyingma Master Mipham's commentary to the wisdom chapter is also translated into English. So there are quite a number of them that are available.
那关于这个英文方面的，关于这个入菩萨行论、菩提萨婆迦叶巴达的著论呢，很多这个英文的这个字，那 Khenpo 所推荐的、所运用就是 Khenpo Kunga 所写的这个论释，就是 Padmakara 翻译小组所翻译出来的，英文都翻译得非常的棒，非常的好，所以这个可以大家去阅读这本书。那其他的洒迦派大师的，就是这个华尔顿的纽约洒迦中心所翻译的这本书。那主要就是这个根据就是 Anikunga Chöten 和 Khenpo Kalsang 所联合翻译的一些这个译著吧。那网站上有销售这本英文的这个书。关于这个入菩萨行论智慧品的部分呢，那很好的翻译，很好的书可以观察是尊者观音尊者、达赖喇嘛尊者所写的，还有就是米胖大师所做的这个释论都有，所以市面上都有不少的关于这方面的入菩萨行论的英文书籍可以供大家参考的。
Okay. Any more question?
That's all. That's the question for today, Khenpo.
Okay, so then we stop here and dedication.
那既然问题就问到这边的话，那我们就在这边打住，然后接下来是这个回向功德。
So see you next week.
下个礼拜，各位再见，晚安，谢谢。